that was cool, man. Hey, everyone, this is Chris Keys, for From Your Guitar, hanging out in Nashville, Tennessee, in my residence. I'm joined today by Antonio Aguilar of All Souls, Totimoshi. Man, how you doing? I appreciate you joining us today.
I'm great, Chris. Thanks for having me, man. This is a true honor.
Yeah,
this
is great.
Real honor.
This is great. So where are you at? Aren't you at your own rehearsal space or recording studio in California?
I am. Me and my wife and a friend own a place called Eastside Rehearsal in a neighborhood called Boyle Heights in Los Angeles.
How long have you guys been there?
It's been open now for almost 5 years. Yeah, it's an hourly rehearsal place and it's like fully backlined. So it's been quite an undertaking,
I bet.
to say the least.
Do you guys practice there too yourselves as a band, a full unit?
We do. We've written every record. All Souls has, anyways. We've written every record here, and we practice here in the mornings. Yeah, it's our place basically.
Right.
Yeah,
on,
we store our things here, and yeah, it's nice having a spot. And I live right down the street from it, so I can walk here in like 10 minutes.
That's great.
So, yeah. Luckily, I've had that weird luck of always living really close to my rehearsal spaces. So that, it's always made it really easy on me, like within 15 minutes walking of where I've lived.
So you're creating
like all throughout my life.
You're creating quickly.
Yeah, constantly. So it's something that just doesn't turn off. Which I love.
That's good, man. And let's just dive right into it. I've known you obviously as I alluded to earlier with Totimoshi, and you primarily were a Strat guy, and I'd see sometimes with single coils, sometimes with dual humbuckers. I've seen you even in, I think it was 2007 or 2008, you had like a Les Paul style guitar, but primarily a Strat guy. So talk to me about what you're using right now in your hands and kind of the love for the Strat you have.
Well, this is the main Strat that I use in All Souls. It's a 2019. I just bought it last year. It's a Fender Strat Pro, and it's got the Tim Shaw, the single coil pickups, which I love. I wrote it down. They're the Tim Shaw V mods. They're just amazing pickups. They sound so great. And the most important thing to me about Strats is they just feel so perfect in my hands. I feel like they space my fingers really well. For a while, I was doing like flamenco style guitar on a classical or on a flamenco guitar, and it really changed from the way that I learned. And I'll show you the guitar I learned on. It spaced my fingers very differently, and it made me approach the guitar differently. And I feel like the Strat kind of brings that, brings the same thing as sort of the flamenco kind of felt on my fingers.
Was the Strat always kind of your first electric, like where you really connected with the instrument after kind of bridging off of the classical?
Well, the Strat, I didn't even buy a Strat until I'd already been playing for like 10 or 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So, but I'd always wanted one. I mean, I grew up, my absolute favorite guitar player in the entire world was Hendrix. And I always wanted to play like him. And I learned like stuff like when I was a kid, by like the time I was 13, it was like... stuff like that, where the right hand technique was always something that I loved about Hendrix. It's just like a dancing, like a beautiful ballet dancer.
So, well, the way you probably learned classically too, playing flamenco is another thing that really probably strengthened your right hand in terms of your vocabulary of playing, but also how you can express the dynamics.
Yeah, and as far as the flamenco style goes, I mean, I'm completely self-taught. I've never taken lessons in my life, so it was all just basically by application and by stumbling and by just learning. And then mostly also by songwriting, because when I started doing flamenco, Meg and I, Totimoshi was kind of done, and we had started a band called Alma Sangre. And Meg, my wife, is a flamenco dancer, so I wanted to do something with her where she danced and then where I played guitar and sang. And, from the very beginning, the whole point of it was to write songs, to write a whole set, and to record. And I mean, that's always been what I've been into is, even when I was a kid, like we would sit in my house, and I grew up really poor, but like the one thing that we always had was art. And my brother was he's an amazing artist. My little brother's an amazing guitar player, and we would just sit at home and just do art all day, like draw pictures, or I would write short stories sometimes. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a writer, and then for me, it was always like the end point, like the reason that you approach something is literally to finish it,
Mm-hmm.
to finish an actual piece that you hang on a wall, and and then it's done. So, and that was always why I wanted to learn guitar, was because I wanted to write music.
So what, quickly as a quick sidebar, as a writer myself, or trying to be one, is what took you from writing, and not saying that you're not a writer continuously, as you obviously write music and maybe short stories, but what made guitar be kind of like your pen to paper, so to speak?
I felt that I also draw, and I was also painted a bit, and I felt like I could incorporate all of it. So I could incorporate my writing, which I loved, with songs and songwriting, and sort of, is kind of like that way it could all be expressed, and I could do the entire spectrum, the whole circle. So
it's great, man. And I remember with the band, even just back as far as 2017, 2018, you had what appeared to be, it could be fooling me, was a gray dual humbucker guitar. So what made you change to, with the new record, Songs for the End of the World, what made you go to the single coils?
Well, primarily Eric, our other guitar player, and he's an amazing guitar player. He's a ridiculous player who I loved. I've known Eric for like 20 years, and he was in a band called Black Elk before that we had toured with, Totimoshi had toured with. And Eric plays an SG, and it's a very heavy sound. It's a very distinctive, right, sound. And funny enough, I was listening to an interview with Joe Walsh on Mark Maron, and he was talking about, if you're in a band with a guy with a humbucker, you should play single coil so that you're not in the same space. And I kind of took that to heart, and I was like, yeah, he's right. And I started messing around with the single coils, and it took a while for me to really because I'm so used to humbucker style and the humbucker sound. It's so massive, but he was totally right, and I think it sounds amazing now in the band with, we have one guy with humbuckers and one guy with single coil stuff, and it reminded me of like Priest, like Judas Priest or something, where, like one guy would have, Glenn Tipton or and KK, like sometimes they would have like KK or Glenn Tipton plays a lot of the Strats, and then KK would play like a lot of the Gibson-y humbucker stuff, and the blend was beautiful, and that way, I'm not in the same low range that he's at. He's very low. He kind of has those mid lows, and then I have the mid highs, so it kind of fulfills itself.
Do you guys think that? Do you take the Joe Walsh analogy even further when you're thinking about amps too? Like I know that I've seen Eric play Oranges, I've seen you play Oranges, but primarily I've seen you more recently with like a Fender combo, right?
Yeah, and that's the same. That's the same ethic, or the same ethos.
It's trying to have different styles of amps so they have different voices.
Yeah, and I feel like the Fender really brings out. I mean, obviously the Fender will bite your head off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we did that. They were all well thought out. It was something that we definitely thought about in constructing the whole live sound. In recording it's different, obviously. But yeah, that was something we definitely consciously did.
Cool. Well, man, I saw you switch guitars. What do you got in your hands there?
So that you were. This is the one I played originally in Totimoshi.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And this is my very first guitar ever. My dad bought it for me in 1983, the year it came out. I've since switched the pickups. They originally came with some weird ceramic pickups, which, funny enough, I didn't know how to lower action, and I took a chisel to, so I couldn't find the pickups. They're somewhere in my house, but I couldn't find them. It would have been really funny to see the chisel marks. So I switched them out with these lace drop-in gains, because with Totimoshi, I did this weird tuning. It was E B E B E B, so I'm tuned all the way down.
Oh, okay.
So it's like this. It's a really weird. And I literally wrote every single song of Totimoshi's with this weird tuning.
Dang.
Yeah. So and it was really weird because I had to teach myself how to play guitar, and especially to do leads. You know, so it would be a situation where I would always have to figure it out first, and then slowly learn it and over, and then, before I could actually do it live.
What made you go to that tuning? Because I've never heard that tuning before. What made you kind of stumble upon that? That
started with a Zeppelin song that I learned when I was like probably 15 or 16. And I had I'd always done open tunings because I was really into blues when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So I would do like slide playing, like a lot of slide playing and stuff. And then I just started messing with the tuning, and then I ended up, and it was mostly because I could do like the and then I could also, and then there's a lot of so when you're singing and you're the only guitar player in the band, I loved having like sort of a continuous kind of undertone coming back all the time, so that I'd be singing. So it just made it easier for me to but yeah, that's what made it. So I think it was an E minor somehow, and then I just started dropping stuff, and then I just kind of stumbled onto it.
Yeah, that's a hallmark I really love of that band was, I know that you guys were like a 3-piece power trio, but through that tuning now, I understand how there was always that, not drone notes, but ringing notes. There was a lot of open string stuff that you guys would play, or you would play.
Yeah, continuously. So that like even that. I feel like the vibration is deeper, and then obviously we were a heavy band, so being tuned down all the way to B it makes being heavy a lot easier.
Now, going back to the chisel job you done on these original pickups, that's not something you did with your time with the Melvins, because you were a guitar tech for them and you were a tour manager for Neurosis and Sleep. You didn't take a chisel to any of Buzz's guitars, did you?
No, unfortunately.
Well,
no.
What are those pickups active, or are they just humbuckers, like hot humbuckers?
No, they're just super hot humbuckers. The drop-in gains are 13.5 to 24K.
Yeah.
They're super hot. They're crazy hot. So, and they do pick up, like when you're tuned this low, they're really distinctive. They pick out really, really well. This guitar hasn't been set up in a while. I've had it stored at my house for like 7 years. I literally took it out like 2 days ago, and I'd forgotten about it. I also carved in, the day my father passed away, on the back, I carved rest in peace to my father, and I carved the number 3 on it, because my dad was born 3/3/33, March 3rd, 1933.
Wow.
And I sat and I wrote a song that's on one of the Totimoshi records. I can't remember the name of it, but that day he passed away, I sat and wrote an instrumental song for him. And that's the day that I carved all this stuff into this guitar.
That's cool, man. And
so
go ahead.
Oh, this is a guitar that I will absolutely never get rid of. There's been a lot of guitars that have been in my hands that I've sold, and I always get that seller's remorse thing where I sell something and I get pissed at myself later on. But this is something that I will never ever get rid of. It'll be with me, and I'm going to pass it on to one of my nephews. Will hopefully get into music, and I'll pass it on to them.
That's rad, man. And I know that you had some laces in the Strat too. Were they the same models of the lace that you got there in the Les Paul?
No, those are different. Those are now, and I actually that was another reason that I love the Stratocasters.
Mm-hmm.
Is you can easily pick these loaded pickguards up, and you could just switch out styles. Here, I'll take some out. Like this is the original HSS that was on my black guitar, which is here.
Okay.
I'll show you that in a second. And then there's this. I have this Chimey 59, which is sort of it's super super low. I think it's like 5 is the highest it goes, 5K.
Wow, yeah, that's low output.
But it's a very like it's the original kind of 59 Strat sound. So if I ever like say we go into the studio, or if we do like certain songs where I want to use something like that, like I'll and it's so easy to, it's just 2 solder points, on a Stratocaster. And then this is the ones that I was using that I think that we were referring to.
I love that you got all these Pickguards in on a messenger bag, so you're ready to go.
yeah, dude. These are like, this is it's a real utilitarian, like sort of, like ideal that we have in All Souls. And
I love it, man. I love it.
These are the ones that I used originally in All Souls. Yeah, these are they're the Nitro Hemis, and these are now, I think they're the signature Matt Pikes.
Okay.
Which I think he called it the Dirty Heshers.
Yeah, the Dirty Heshers.
Dirty Heshers, yeah. So yeah, Lace was nice enough to give me this a long time ago, and I really love these pickups. They're pretty amazing. They're pretty awesome. I think Bill Kelleher uses something similar to these as well.
Yeah, he's got signature ones through them too.
Yeah, which I love. I love Mastodon sound. They're so amazing.
It should be noted too that the Pickguard's pretty sharp too. All the Pickguards are like that. Yeah, tortoiseshell.
I love tortoise, man. That's beautiful.
Well, you talked about it. Let's see that the gold one up close, the black and gold one.
Oh yeah, I played this guitar also in Totimoshi towards the end of Totimoshi. This is 2000. This is a 2006, and it's an American Fender American Deluxe, and it's the HSS. And this is all the stock stuff. I put the stock stuff back on it. I used to have the humbuckers on this guitar.
Okay.
And I would also have it on the silver one every once in a while, which is back here. But I've lately been doing this tuning that that I seen from Alan Johannes. Let me see if I have it right. And it's a GC all the way down. Oh wait. And it's weird. It's to do, new tunings because I feel like they speak to you, and
What is that? What you hear towards the end of "You Just Can't Win"? That type of tuning, because there's like some like Middle Eastern string parts towards the end of that song on what's coming on the new record.
No, that was all standard tuning. We do a standard D.
Oh, okay.
In All Souls, so everything that's recorded so far is all in standard tuning, except for that we tuned to D.
Gotcha.
This is just something I've been messing around with lately. We've already written, we've been writing. We have about 7 songs written already for the next record. So
oh wow!
It's just a matter of when we can get back into the studio and when it's safe enough to do so. And because when this whole thing happened, we just figured we should get busy, and not waste it and just. So we've been writing. There was a little while where we were going every day, and which was awesome. But that is as much as we can do that. We'll do that.
Yeah, you don't want to get stagnant, even if it feels like maybe not like a lost cause, but we don't all know where the light at the end of the tunnel is. So it's one way to kind of force forward is to create and just keep going.
And I feel like it's a real easy time to fall into an absolute deep depression, with what's going on. So it kind of, I feel like music is definitely like a source of keeping yourself from that. It's a way of keeping yourself from depression.
Absolutely.
For me, anyways.
Yeah, man. It's a way to express ourselves without doing any damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, the most holy of ways.
Yeah. What you had mentioned different tunings, but what strings are you using on most of your guitars?
I do all 9 to 42.
Oh wow!
Which, yeah, and I've actually thought of going 8. I just love, even when I was tuned to B. What I would do is I would tighten the springs on the back of this, because when you tune it down so far, the bridge will pitch up.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just tighten it, and then sometimes I would do a down bow if I had to on the fretboard. Because to me in guitar playing, nothing is correct. It's whatever feels right and whatever sounds right. So I would do all these things to make it a little bit tighter. But I loved the way the strings flap on a fretboard, and just because it feels like you're in a fight sometimes, especially live, and you just grab them and manipulate them however you want. And then if you hear something, and then then you can, next time you're back in the writing space, then you use that as well. It's always constant experimentation. So.
You mentioned the block and the springs in the back. How do you set up your vibrato, the tremolo arm? Because I know that's a really expressive tool you use for the band.
I always go flat, like really flat, and I like it that way. And like I said, everything is to me what's most important is that the guitar feels right on your hand. And I usually rest my hand here, because my pick is super close to my fingers. It's almost like part of my fingers, and I use a lot of my fingers, so I'll put it away a lot to do like something like that, like where I'll pick it. I'm trying to learn the picking style where you do the pick and then do the finger stuff.
Yeah,
Eric does that really well. Yeah, which I've never really done. I've always done the just by the fingers by itself, but I can also do the flamenco. I could do that with my fingers really easily, too. So,
what do you use for picks?
I use these the nylon, the ones with the grippies.
Okay.
Like, usually Dunlop. They're the medium. This is the 1.5. And they just feel right on my fingers. If it doesn't have a grip, I feel like I can't play correctly.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, I used to use whatever.
Yeah.
If I broke a string, I would even, because we lived an hour away from the closest music store, so I would grab a string and tie it and then put it on there and then retighten it up. So, but
at that point, it's just like whatever works.
Yeah, whatever works. And that's I think that's a good, wholesome American ethic and ethos.
Right.
It's like whatever works, man.
Yeah. Well, what?
Yeah, and that's it.
Go ahead.
That's something that I learned when I was roading too. I know it's something I learned before I was roading and before I was tour managing. But it's when you hit the road and you're a band on the road in a van, wherever you are, whatever works is a good way of living. It's a good thing to live by. It's a good mantra. Because you're gonna come across some things that are, pretty fucking scary and horrible.
It's all about
so you gotta figure it out.
It's all about just moving that van down the road to the next exit.
Yeah.
Well,
you have to sleep in a road stop. Hey, it worked.
Yeah, you got some hours of sleep, got some shut eye.
Yeah.
What do you you talked about it earlier was the first guitar you learned on. Do you have that nearby? Your acoustic?
Yeah, this one. Oh no, you know what? This is actually the one I learned on.
Oh, okay.
The silver.
Gotcha.
I don't have any acoustics. I didn't bring any down here. I should have brought my flamenco.
No sweat.
I didn't.
Well,
yeah,
do we have any other guitars that you want to bring up that are nearby that we haven't talked about?
This is the silver. This one, what is this? This one's a 2008, and I bought this one after I bought the black one because I loved. Like I said, I fell in love with the way the Strats feel on my hands, and I always, I wanted to have a second guitar where if I break a string, because it's touring in a van and stuff like that, I break a string, then I grab it, and it's got the same sound. And this has the Tim Shaws as well. The original this is an original, this is the HSS.
Okay.
which I could very easily, like I said, go back to if I want to. But I have these Tim Shaws in them, so this is basically like the second guitar. So if I break a string, I'll grab this one.
Okay.
It's a little different. It's the placement. I feel like the placement on the Professional, the Strat Pro, of the volume knob is so much better than this one. It's a little harder to manipulate, when you're doing swells and stuff like that. But this guitar is great. It's got a great sound, and yeah, I love it. It feels really good on my hands.
Can we hear it just for a taste test since you have it plugged in?
Yeah, it's just.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I love, and it's funny because Strats always get this. I mean, I don't think they have a reputation, but I feel like there's not a lot of heavy metal guys anymore that use Strats, which I always wonder about that. It's like they are heavy guitars. They can sound super heavy.
Yeah.
If you just manipulate them the right way.
Now, going back to the black one real quick, just in the question, is that one kind of just like your humbucker guitar? Or is that like a guitar that's used specifically for some other reason? Yeah,
it's the humbucker guitar.
For like heavier stuff.
It's for heavier stuff, and it's an experimentation. Like I said, we're writing now, so I changed it back to the original with the humbuckers there, rather than doing the lace stuff, because I've now grown very accustomed to the way that single coil sound in certain positions.
Yeah.
So I at least wanted to have the ability to move to a single coil if I wanted it.
Gotcha.
Which I loved. I absolutely loved the middle position of the single coil, which I guess is the Adrian Ballou. As opposed to it's a little higher.
Yeah.
But I do love that middle position. It's so amazing. It's just a little hard to get to when you're playing and you're singing at the same time. But you can do it, obviously. Do anything. And then also the other thing I love about Strats is that you can quiet them with the volume. The volume is so important with a Strat. If I'm playing behind Eric, and I want to quiet down just a touch, the volume knob is so good at quieting the tone down and just bringing a lot of that distortion out, rather than sitting there and having to manipulate a bunch of pedals.
Yeah, I was going to ask it because both Totimoshi and All Souls are dynamic bands. They're known for their noise and heaviness, but a lot of the shades of their quiet and more docile tones are something that can be appreciated and that helps bring the heaviness up. So I was curious if you're doing that like via a volume pedal on the floor, or are you controlling everything with the guitar?
I do everything with my hands. Yeah, I don't. Eric has a volume pedal that he uses, and that's mostly because I would bitch and complain because he was always so loud, and it was over the voice, and then I think I bitched and complained so much that he finally succumbed and got a volume pedal and started trying to work with it. Yeah, I think I made his life hell for a little while. Yeah, no, everything with me is just trying to do that. That is from working with Buzz from the Melvins. When I was roadieing and teching for those guys, and Buzz has a real sort of do everything with the hands, everything, and he literally turns his pedal backwards, and it's sitting over by his amp. It's not even close to anywhere, where he's over there performing and singing. He does everything here with manipulation with the, he has a 3 position, like sort of Les Paul position, but he does everything that way. So he'll set his volumes at a certain place where if he wants quiet, he just goes there, and if he wants overwhelmingly loud, he just goes down. And I thought that was a really good way of working, especially if you're singing, because you don't want to sit there and be tap dancing while you're singing, because I want to concentrate on what the delivery and the messaging of the lyrics. So yeah, I try to do it as much with my fingers as possible, and then obviously when there's time to play, when the little spaces of time that we put to for the band to just be completely instrumental, then I'll bear into the pedals more.
Well, man,
Yeah.
talk to me about your amp. Like I've said back in the other Totimoshi days, I've seen you with the stiletto, Mesa Boogie stiletto. I've seen you with orange stuff,
Yeah.
but most recently I've seen you with the Fender, which can be kind of skewed as being a Fender, or I'm sorry, a Fender and, or I'm sorry, a Vox in Fender's clothing because it has EL84s. Because you got the bass breaker, right?
I have the bass breakers, but there's EL34s in them, so it's very Marshally.
Oh, really? So you took out the 84s and put 34s in?
There's EL34s in this one. It's strange. Yeah, there's EL34s because I just switched them, and then what I really love about the bass breaker is the attenuator, and I feel like I can set my ceiling at the break point, you know, and to where I love getting that sort of Malcolm Young little bits of distortion.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, Malcolm is he was such an integral part of AC/DC, where when you would hear that chunk, you know, and a lot of times I'm playing behind Eric to sort of bring his playing out, you know, and I want to have that chunk there, but I want it to be clean too, you know, so that it's not overwhelming and it's not taken away from what he's doing. So I feel like these bass breakers, because of the attenuators, like I really like them. And honestly, the only reason I'm playing them is because this one was gifted to my studio.
Oh, really?
And I had sold, when we had originally started building this place, I had to sell a bunch of stuff because we ran out of money, you know, in the process of building the place. So I didn't have my stiletto anymore. I didn't have a bunch of stuff. So I started using the bass breaker because a Fender rep came by and gave it to me and like gifted it to us. And then I ended up buying 2 more, you know, for the studio, like once we got to a certain point.
It's interesting because of all the Fender combos that, you know, if I said, oh, this guy plays a Fender combo, there's a specific image or two that come up in people's heads that are players. The bass breaker isn't one of them.
Yeah. But I mean, it sounds great, man. And I used them when we were playing with Tool. I just used a 212 with another 212 extension underneath it. And it sounded, to me, I mean, on stage, it sounded massive. And I dug it, you know. I mean, obviously, if I could afford something bigger and better, and if it made sense in a van, you know, which is the way we tour, I would do it. But we use combos because we tour in vans, you know. So and I feel like it's we don't need 2 half stacks on stage, you know, when there's 2 guitar players, you know. Eric sounds dark enough with the orange stuff, I think, just a 212 combo. So I mean, I think it's a good combo, you know, combination. But yeah, the bass breakers, I think they're cool, man. I use the middle position, which is a cross between the bassman, and I can't remember which one. It's kind of twins. It sounds like a little bit like a twin if you go into the high position.
Okay.
And it's the middle one kind of still gives me those mids and still gives you the highs, but it also brings out a little bit of the lows for the Strat, so it helps it along a little bit.
Cool, man. I'd love to talk about your pedal board, just because, you know, I'm always interested in what you got going on because you have such shades, not only distortion and overdrive, but also like kind of eerie, ethereal delays and reverb. So I'm curious what's going on your feet. So talk to me about what's going on.
So right now, what always lives on it is 2 delay pedals. I started using the MXR carbon copy, which is an analog delay, because the delay pedal that I had before broke on the road, and I just stopped into a Guitar Center and I just bought the first delay pedal that I felt kind of sounded like the one that I had before.
Do you remember what you had before?
It was a Dan Electro. I can't remember the number of it, but it was a really tiny little Dan Electro digital delay or analog delay, and I loved it. It was really cool, and it was really cheap.
Yeah, and they're super small, and they look kind of like retro.
Yeah, and I have a really small board. I try not to get too crazy when we're on the road, so it fit the board really well, and it sounded great. So I usually use like 2, like one, like a very quick echo, and I like to hear that pop, 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 like right behind it. And then I have another one. A second delay is a Digitech Digidelay, which that one has all these different modes on it, and one of them is the backwards sound. But I don't use that one. I do a little bit of a deeper. You know, so if I wanna do like. You know, or if I want the smaller one, if I'm, you know, just to make it sound a little bit bigger. But what's really cool is if I use both of them. I love the way the two, when they're together, it just creates this massive.
It's like a haunted house.
Like, yeah, it creates like a real crazy, like or like something like a. Yeah, which I do a lot behind, you know, whatever Eric's doing. Like I'll do a lot of like sort of kind of more ethereal, soundscapey type stuff as well.
One of the songs I really dig on the new album that people hear in October is "Rename the Room" because it has such a unique tone to what I've known you as a guitar player. I was curious about what you got, if you can remember how you recorded that, or like what pedals you used, because it has kind of what you're playing there. Some real eerie, dark delay and reverb.
I used this guitar
because it has like a real slinky. You can tell it's a single coil guitar.
Yeah. The just like kind of just like kind of like very. I also like the kind of David Gilmour. I just I can't remember what we used on that, like in the because Eric does one solo and I do the other. I do the first solo on that, and then which I do kind of like the ZZ Top, like the Billy Gibbons-ish solo, and then Eric does the very like weird, like beautiful, ethereal, like strange solo that sounds more like David Gilmour on that. I can't remember what we used exactly. Toshi's like. When we record with Toshi Kasai, he's a wizard. He has all these pedals, and then he's got like just a room full of a gazillion pedals that we're always, I mean, guitar geeks like me and Eric are just like having a field day in there.
Yeah, I bet.
It's
almost like
kid in a candy store.
Yeah, almost like an abundance of decisions. It's almost like you're overwhelmed.
Yeah, totally.
What you had played? You put it out when you were kind of playing with the two delays. What kind of slide do you use?
I do either when I record I always do a glass slide.
Okay.
Like always. I feel like it has a deeper, more round tone. When we play live, I always do the metal because I've broken glass slides before on stage, so the metal's really easy to keep in my pocket, so I just like pull it out really quick. When we have a song where I play slide on it, I've had to learn how to work with 3 fingers, because I always wear the slide on a third finger. So I've just learned how to do stuff like, and then I could go into the slide stuff, but it's always metal. It's always a metal slide. Just
for utilitarian reasons, so you don't break anything.
Same thing, yeah. Especially like playing live. And then also on the pedal board. Right now, I'm using. I just got the MXR Distortion Plus, the Randy Rhoads, which by itself I'm not really into. But when it's mixed with I have this pedal called the. It's Tom. What is it? Tom. It's the Greenizer, and it's a very ZZ Top-ish. Like, when it's mixed with that, when I mix it, the MXR and the Distortion Plus with the greenizer, it gives it like a lot more deepness. It gives it like sort of a low presence. I've always blended distortions. I always feel like two distortions, one high, one low is the way I like to go. And then I've been recently messing with this mosaic pedal, which it's it's supposed to be a 12-string emulator. It's a Digitech Mosaic.
Oh.
I've been messing with that because I wrote a song that's kind of birds-like, and I mean my ultimate when we get into the studio would be to use a Rickenbacker, like a 12-string Rickenbacker, to record it. But for now, I bought this Mosaic, and I think that's probably going to be what we do live.
Like what era of the birds are we talking? Are we talking like Tambourine Man or like Rodeo or Jekyll and Hyde?
like kind of Tambourine Man-ish, like kind of that area. Or it's kind of Who. It's kind of like song is kind of like Pete Richard or Pete Townsend's like when he would use like a 12-string occasionally in the studio. Like I really love that very full like 12-string sound, and that song needs it. So I bought this pedal just as it was a lot easier than buying a $3,000 guitar. So.
Have you stumbled across any like happy accidents while kind of messing around with this Mosaic pedal, because it is a very interesting and different sound, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the happy accidents are the greatest, man. Just it brings out like open choruses like really well, like it makes the open like sound very birdsish, like very very big and beautiful.
Has that like natural chorusing effect? Like I know that it's manipulating it, but it's like the idea of, I know that you brought up Mastodon before, but on their earlier records, I want to say like Crack the Sky, they used. And same thing with Matt Pike. He would use a 9-string and like High and Fire to get like that. I guess a tonal string that natural chorusing having double strings has. And that's what that sounds like.
And funny enough, Totimoshi toured with Mastodon during Crack the Sky, and maybe that was like some of the chip that stayed in my brain to write stuff like that.
That,
I mean, watch
Led Zeppelin and the Byrds, all that.
Yeah, all that, man. I mean, it's really singy. And then I have a 63 Fender Reverb, which the bass breaker doesn't have a reverb on it. So, and then I felt like it's better to have a reverb that I can go on off. So I bought this 63, and it's a nice reverb. It sounds good. I use on. I use that a lot in the studio for slide stuff, a lot more than the delay. The delay stuff that I do with slide is more for live things, but the studio definitely like more like a reverb with slide.
Why do you feel that's better suited for studio with the richer reverb?
Mostly because I don't when I play reverb live, I try to set it at a very low setting. Where it's not overwhelming enough for it to really grab the slide and make it sing. And I don't want to have to jump down and be moving things around when we're playing live. So I live with the 2 delay sound, and it's like I said, it's whatever works. What we were saying before, that works live as opposed to me having to, physically change things while we're playing. So it's just simply for that reason.
Gotcha. Is there anything else on your pedal board after the Mosaic?
Yeah, I just got this MXR compression pedal, the custom compression, and I really love it. It's really good for strats. It just kind of makes it a little bit more singy. It makes it a little bit more like kind of a whole, you know. I definitely would recommend a compression pedal for anybody that plays Stratocasters. And then other than that, it's just a Boss chromatic tuner, and that's pretty much it. You know, super simple.
With the compressor, is it more of a live thing, or do you use it also while recording?
I haven't had it long enough to use it on a recording yet.
Okay.
But I did use a compression pedal when I was we were doing both records. Toshi put a compression pedal on it, and that's what made me want to buy it. Okay. You know, because it just makes a chord sound a little bit more whole. It's really quiet without it, but it sounds a little bit more flat without the compression. Mm-hmm. So it brings out a lot of the qualities of a Strat. You know, makes it a little bit more present, I guess. Is
Antonio, I got a random question for you because I never thought I would have to be able to do a rig rundown with you. You know, with the All Souls, and obviously Totimoshi. But I'd be curious if you could tell me, if you could remember, is the what you used to record for Viva Zapata, the old Totimoshi song, because it sounds like either like a AM radio or like a pig nose or something very small but very pushed. And I'm just curious if it was something special, or maybe it was just a standard amp.
That was a Carvin Quad.
Okay.
Which I used to own, and that's one of my seller's remorse things. I wish I had never sold that thing, because it was an amazing preamp. And I used to run that through a Mesa Boogie Simul 300, believe it or not. It was a 2-channel, 300 watt, 150 watt per channel power amp. And it was huge. It sounded massive. But there was one setting, it was a 4-channel preamp, and one of the settings on there was super tiny sounding, like really weird, kind of very compressed, strange sound. So that's the one that I used for Viva Zapata, and I use this guitar here to do that recording. And I can't remember what else I used. I mean, back then we would just do really dry recordings, mm-hmm. and I really love like kind of Black Flag-ish, again, kind of guitar sound that I was trying to get back then.
Well, Antonio, I got one final question with you, and it doesn't really relate to gear, but it's very interesting that you mentioned Meg at the beginning of the video. You guys have been a couple for a long time. You've been creating music together for a long time. What's it like to be in a band, not only with your partner, your wife, but someone that you've been creating music with so long? So it's like, one hand, you guys have known each other, as humans for a long time, but also you're a great guitar bass duo, and apparently a great guitar and dance duo.
Yeah, she's a great dancer. People should see her dance. It's incredible. I mean, it's to be in a band with literally your life partner is a dream come true. And Adam from Tool pointed that out. He's like, I love how you guys, because we take our dog on the road too, our little pug, and he's like, I love how you guys have basically brought your whole support system on the road with you, and I think that's important when you're out and touring and stuff. It's good to feel supported, and it's good to feel home, So wherever I am, I always feel like I'm at home because she's always with me, and it's important.
Do you guys create?
I think I need that.
Yeah. Do you guys create a lot that maybe a couple that doesn't play music together wouldn't? Because a lot of times bands have to either set aside time or make time or trade ideas via the internet. You guys can strike it up at any point.
Yeah, and in every facet, like creating this business, and in a neighborhood that didn't have anything like this before. It's a really poor and underserved community where we're at, Boyle Heights in Los Angeles. It's just before East Los Angeles. And I feel like nothing like this would have been created without Meg, and she probably feels the same, towards me. So I feel like everything that we do, and I love that. I love that we're creating and we're constantly building, things, and we try to glorify every little moment of life that we have. And I think that's important. I mean, especially now, man, like, now everybody has this time to think and to really address the immortal and address, the brevity of life. That, the important things in life are the people you hold near and dear. That's what's important. And having them with you near and dear all the time is important to me, So it's been great. It's been great to be able to do this with her this whole time.
That's rad, man. Well, Antonio, I appreciate you again taking the time, coming to the studio, the rehearsal space earlier in the day, because you're in California, so we're doing this on your time. It's in the morning still, so I appreciate you, and everyone at Premier Guitar appreciates what you're doing. So, man, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it, man.
Killer, man. Thank you again. That's another Rig Rundown.